Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. The time is 10:29 a.m. and it's the 22nd of November 2024. We've got a lovely, cool, rainy day, only 20 degrees today, which is pleasant. Bit sick of the rain, but I complained a few weeks ago that I was sick of the drought, so swings and roundabouts with planet Earth swinging. The pendulum swinging in both directions very dramatically and wildly at times. So there is that. Looking forward to my dance tonight. So I've had a shower and shaved my legs and put moisturiser on. I've got terrible leathery old fucking skin. It's from all the sun damage probably, and not drinking enough water probably. But anyway, so I'm all spruced up. All I have to do tonight is the extravaganza of putting on makeup and putting on a nice frock. Haven't decided what I'm going to wear tonight. I wore this a couple of weekends ago. People quite liked it. It's actually just a little sundress. So anyway, I haven't decided what I'm going to wear, but anyway, I'll be happy to see my friend Judy perform again, and it's going to be a wonderful evening, I'm sure. So I'm going to continue to finish off the Kybalion. We're about just over halfway through the book. I'm tempted to just scrap it and read different stories because I get bored, people of Earth. It's not good when Mama T gets bored. But I started this mission, so I must complete it. And, there's not too many chapters left, so probably a few more videos of this particular subject matter. And if I have energy later, I might come in and read different stories because, I like to spice up my life and have variety. Not with my love life. My love life is very single-minded and personally kind sort of gal, but in other factors of my life I like to have. Oh, there goes that cloac again. Can you turn your tail on the other way, Come here. I like to have lots of different things, variety happening, even with my eating. Like I hate eating leftovers more than, I might eat leftovers the following day, but if I have to eat it for 3 or 4 days, I get very grumpy about that. So I like different sort of experiences, I guess, different aromas, and I love when the seasons change and everything changes. I like seeing the world manifest in different ways. It's lovely. I'm looking out over at my neighbour's tree across the road. I think I can remember his name. For the love of all the gods, I can't remember his name. I'll have to ring up Peter and ask him because he's friends with him. He'll be like, have you got dementia, Tanya? Yes, I think I'm skirting that drain. But anyway, he's got the most wonderful big magnolia tree next to his frangipani tree, and I really love magnolias. One of my favourite things. Planted a beautiful magnolia, two beautiful magnolias in my marital home, and right after I sold it, the motherfuckers chopped them down. I went past and saw the trees were gone. I was like devastated. I hate how people just destroy the most beautiful things. I have the most beautiful garden. They basically ripped it all up. Soulless motherfuckers. All my roses. Everything. The only thing they kept was the macadamia nut tree. Just odd. But anyway. Let us continue, beautiful people of planet Earth. Sometimes I already prematurely grieve for what will happen to the land when I leave here, because I know it'll get bulldozed and sold to developers. So I grieve for my beautiful trees. So I kind of stay here as long as I can, knowing that I'm kind of the gatekeeper between me and the trees losing their beautiful, long, long lives. What do you think of that, Charlie? You was a good mama, Mama T. You try. I do try, don't I, Charlie? Anyway. Chapter 9. I think we were up to chapter 9. Yes. Chapter 9. Vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The Kybalion. The great third Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration, embodies the truth that motion is manifest in everything in the universe, that nothing is at rest, that everything moves, vibrates, and circles. This Hermetic principle was recognised by some of the early Greek philosophers who embodied it in their systems. You're very twittery today, Charlie. Hello. Hello. But then for centuries it was lost sight of by the thinkers outside of the Hermetic ranks. But in the 19th century, physical science rediscovered the truth, and the 20th century, scientific discoveries have added additional proof of the correctness and truth of the centuries-old Hermetic doctrine. The Hermetic teachings are that not only is everything in constant movement and vibration, but that the differences between the various manifestations of the universal power are due entirely to the varying rate and mode of vibrations. Not only this, but that even the all in itself manifests a constant vibration of such an infinite degree of intensity and rapid motion that it may be practically considered as at rest. The teachers directing the attention of the students to the fact that, even on the physical plane, a rapidly moving object, such as a revolving wheel, seems to be at rest. The teachings are to the effect that spirit, capital S spirit, is at one end of the pole of vibration, and the other pole being certain extremely gross forms of matter. Extremely gross they mean not in the sense of modern parlance or something being icky, but gross as in gross, enormous, large, expansive, great. Between these two poles are millions upon millions of different rates and modes of vibration. You have to laugh at her, she's a funny girl. What? Modern science has proven that all that we call matter and energy are but modes of vibratory motion. And some of the more advanced scientists are rapidly moving toward the positions of the occultists, who hold that the phenomena of mind are likewise modes of vibration or motion. Kiss. Kissy kissy. Oh. Let us see what science has to say regarding the question of vibrations in matter and energy. So she shut down my back instead. I know. In the first place, science teaches that all matter manifests in some degree, the vibrations arising from temperature or heat or Charlie's cloaca. She goes, don't be rude, Mum T. I can't help it. It's true, she can't. Be an object cold or hot, as hot as your ass, Charlie, both being but degrees of the same things. It manifests certain heat vibrations, and in that sense is in motion and vibration. She says, Respect my authority, Mama T. Okay, I'll respect your authority. She's got a point though. There's no need to be crass, Mama T. Discussing my cloaca and my extruding out of my assets. Alright, Charlie. It's very immature of me, isn't it? Didn't realise I was so immature till I met you. Well, it does get very tiresome being pinned on constantly. Just say. What happened? Got food stuck to your beak, and now you're surfing like Gidget across Mama's hands. She's a very busy bird. Very busy bird. Right, where were we, Charlie? You distracted me with your immense beauty and your charisma. It's not hard, is it, Charlie? Be an object cold or hot, both being but degrees of the same things. It manifests certain heat vibrations, and in that sense is in motion and vibration. Like the thermal vents on our friend the carpet snake. That's how she catches her prey. Oh, I shared a delightful video this morning, snake catchers, Sunshine Coast snake catchers. Put a video up on Facebook of a carpet snake climbing a tree, and it was amazing watching how it coils around the tree and then it stretches up and then it coils and it stretches, and I was shocked how quickly it climbed that freaking tree, and all I could think is, thank God she never decided to climb the tree to catch Charlie when I put her in having tree time up the tree. So now I'm petrified of even putting her in the tree. But Charlie, you've got to live your best life no matter what. You have to be brave, you have to be audacious, you have to fight against potential death even in the form of a carpet snake. So, but I'll just have to be very conscious of how flaming quick those things move and the fact that Charlie doesn't fly. But you're not completely stupid, are you? If you saw a carpet snake climbing a tree coming to get you, Charlie, you'd throw yourself out of the tree, wouldn't you? Yes, Mama T. She probably would. So I don't need to worry about every little tiny thing, do I? Creating my own anxiety hell loop. Oh, but it was astonishing. It was an astonishing video. Beautiful. Beautiful to watch, actually. I've fallen in love with carpet snakes since I met Sybil. She's imprinted on me somehow. It's all a bit odd, but one has to be conscious that we share this planet with all other living creatures, and they too have a right to be safe at sacred space while they're shedding their skin. And I can't help feeling that she'd been hanging around me in the last couple of years, observing me, because there was another video posted up 2 years ago of me walking up the side garden, the right-hand side garden, following a gigantic carpet snake as she was slithering up. And I think it was the same one. I think she's been making sure that she's safe here and that I'm a nice human and not going to harm her. And I honestly think, I know it sounds bonkers, but I honestly think that she ascertained the fact that I was not threatening to her, and in fact was, circumspect and keeping my distance. She realised this is as good a place as any to shed my skin where I won't be under constant threat and attack. Although she did get rather annoyed, I could tell, of me checking on her 4 or 5 times a day rather obsessively. But she'd just slither back under the dragon fruit tree and sleep most of the day anyway. So she was a very nice flatmate, didn't cause any real damage, and she didn't, apart from camping right outside your bedroom window every day, Charlie, hoping against hope that she'd somehow get an opportunity to catch you, she didn't cause any real damage to you either, did she? No, because we were very careful. We were very careful of keeping Charlie and Sybil separated. You gotta keep them separated. Can you sing a song? Keep them separated. She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, Mama. Don't worry, neither do I. I can't even think of the name of the song. But anyway, I know it's got a line in there somewhere. Is it Pretty Fly for a White Guy? Is it that one? Anyway, I'll have to check that later just for my own curiosity to if I remembered it correctly. Right, all my musician friends are laughing their asses off. This is what I'm like, guys. You sing me song lyrics. I don't even know what song you're singing because I don't know the song and I can't always hear the lyrics because the music's too loud and I'm just looking at you like, what are they even singing in it? You know, the directing it to me is like deeply meaningful and I'm like, so it's a bit of a shame actually. I'm missing out on a lot of the innuendo and inside jokes if I can't hear it or don't understand it. But there was one particular song they were singing to me and I honestly, I've never heard the song before. I was trying to listen carefully to listen to the lyrics, but I was like, it was a hard rock song, but it's obviously a band that I'm not familiar with or haven't heard before. It makes me feel incredibly stupid when that happens. My former lover Dave used to just go insane at my lack of musical knowledge. I was like, well, I was raised on Shirley Bassey and Chet Atkins, so kill me now. Although Shirley Bassey could belt out a tune. It must be him, or I shall die. Well, I didn't fucking die, although I tried a few times. And I carried on living my best life. And now, how did he used to put it, that man? He was an awful man to me, really awful. I became annoying. Well, I'm going to annoy you till you die, people of Earth, because I have every right to be here along with Sybil Serpent in my garden. If you don't appreciate me, Number 2 has the power to move on and be happy somewhere else. I'll just be awesome somewhere else. Someone else will get the benefit of my quirky personality and my charisma and my magic and my mad moshing. Where can I go? Well, I don't need to go anywhere. It's not a real threat because I've got no intention of going anywhere. I love my Brooklyn standard too much. And they love me. Most of them do anyway. Some of them probably think I'm annoying already, but you know, it took me 15 months to grate on their nerves, so it's not so bad, is it? Had a good run. I had a good run and a good mosh. Oh, anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing Ramjet tonight. To you all, Ramjet. Right, where were we? Getting hot. Then all particles of matter are in circular movement from corpuscle to suns. The suns revolve around, let me read that again. The planets revolve around suns, and many of them turn on their axes. The suns move around greater central points, and these are believed to move around still greater, and so on ad infinitum. The molecules of which the particular kinds of matter are composed are in a state of constant vibration and movement around each other and against each other. I won't say it. I'll be good, I promise. The molecules are composed of atoms which likewise are in a state of constant movement and vibration. By the way, my neck's still a little bit sore but better, so there will be no 360-degree mosh. If I slip into it, I'll have to kick myself up my own assets because it's not good. It's not good. This getting old thing is not good, and there's no one to look after me and give me a massage and feed me chocolate and brush my hair and kiss me and tell me how gorgeous I am. So I have to do that for myself, and it's a bit hard to massage your own neck. Well, not really. I've managed it to a degree, but I probably need to see a chiropractor and get put back into alignment. If I was back in alignment, I'd be dangerous, babies. Just saying. I've never been to a chiropractor though, so I don't know. I don't know if that would actually help me much. She sniffs. But I've heard that they help some people. I guess I'm so used to doing my own healing on my own self, and I have a lot of trust of doctors, both allopathic and alternative, so yeah, I'll carry on doing my own self-healing and reminding myself I'm nearly fucking 60 and I need to either vibrate higher or vibrate lower or speed the hell up or slow the hell down. But either way, in the mad mosh in the moment, it's awesome and I love it. I do love it. The atoms are composed of corpuscles, sometimes called electrons, ions, etc., which also are in a state of rapid motion revolving around each other, which manifest a very rapid state and mode of vibration. And so we see that all forms of matter manifest vibration in accordance with the Hermetic principle of vibration. And so it is with the various forms of energy. Science teaches that light, heat, magnetism and electricity are but forms of vibratory motion, connected in some way with and probably emanating from the ether. Science does not as yet attempt to explain the nature of the phenomenon known as cohesion, which is the principle of molecular attraction, nor chemical affinity, which is the principle of atomic attraction, nor gravitation, the greatest mystery of the three, which is the principle of attraction by which every particle or mass of matter is bound to every other particle or mass. These three forms of energy are not as yet understood by science, yet the writer is inclined to the opinion that these two are manifestations of some form of vibratory energy, a fact which the Hermetists have held and taught for ages past. The universal ether, which is postulated by science without its nature being understood clearly, is held by the Hermetists to be but a higher manifestation of that which is erroneously called matter. That is to say, matter at a higher degree of vibration, and is called by them the ethereal substance. The Hermetists teach that this ethereal substance is of extreme tenuity and elasticity, and pervades universal space, serving as a medium of transmission of waves of vibratory energy such as heat, light. I feel like I've read this before. By the gods. No, I don't think I have. I hate my time being wasted, including if I waste my own time repeating things. So I'm having a little tiny tantrum right now, but no, it's all good. Such as heat, light, electricity, magnetism, etc. I really hate my time being wasted the older I get, because time is of the essence. How much time does a person have at my age? Maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years according to my worthy psychiatrist's wishes for me, and it is a wish. What could I achieve in 30 years, doctor, that I haven't achieved in 60? A hell of a lot if I'm well again, which is why he fought so well for me to have CPAP and get well again. But what am I achieving at this current point of time? Not very bloody much. Oh, but I'm trying, I'm really trying. But time is of the essence. And I'm very conscious that I need to live my best life more and more each day, because it's stretching ever thinner and thinner and thinner. And I have to follow that long red road, the Native American red road, stretching into infinity, which I was shown in my near death in 2019. Like a ribbon I was following. I need to follow it, I need to follow my Dharma, and I need to find out who the great love of my life is going to manifest to be, so I can get on with beginning that and living joyously and happily ever after, just like a fairy tale, only real this time, people of Earth. Can I do it? Don't know, because I'm a prickly pear and I don't suffer fools and I don't like tricks being played on me and so on and so forth. And so it probably won't manifest. The probability is as extraordinary as living another 30 years, but it's in the realms of possibility, and one has to think positive and just live my Dharma, live my best life. So on we go. Wasting time by reading the Kybalion to you, and I could be making a ring I started 2 days ago but got flummoxed because it's too thick and I've had trouble bending it, so sulking about that, taking time out, thinking how I'm going to persevere with it. So while I'm not persevering with it, I'm reading to you. It's Mama T procrastination on the grand scale. So I hate failure. Failure is no longer an option. Anyway, it's all good. My Smith little torch should be arriving in a couple of days' time, so I may need to buy another, swap over the oxygen bottle, gas oxygen bottle, because it blew out when I burnt the hoses, so I don't know how much oxygen is left in it. So there'll be another delay having to swap that out, but then it'll be up and running. And then I just need to motivate and get more silver, which is that is the hard part, is acquiring enough money for the silver. But anyway, bit by bit, I'm reaccumulating my equipment and carrying on as if I have my own, shop, my own workshop, and at least for my own hobby, for my own joy and delight, for making things for myself and improving my skills. And I've got some lovely little pieces of turquoise I bought about 2 months ago, a month or so ago. So I need silver sheet to do backings for those. And anyway, I've got all these little projects sort of on the back burner in the back of my mind, but I'm excited about it. It gives me something to look forward to and something to motivate me and take my mind off my difficult situation. Living my own psychedelic dream, achieving things, albeit very, very slowly in my own time frames, with my own meagre resources, which I get very fucking frustrated about, but I've lived that way all my life, so what's new? It's just the older I get, the more it grinds my gears. I think because I'm healthier, because when I was younger I was too ill to give a fuck. It's just, the whole world could blow up around me. What was that? It was odd, wasn't it? Where did that come from? Anyway, the whole world could have blown up around me, and I literally just went, meh. That's how unwell I was on those heavy psych meds. Awful it was. But they kept me alive and sustained me so I could be at this season of reclamation of my body, mind and spirit, more than ever before, reclaiming, even wanting love again, which is astonishing. So I gave up on that for a long time. Kind of, sort of. It was always like my jewellery in the back burner, in the hope and wishes and prayers basket. But now it's a fully laden fruit basket of joy and delight, and it's like, can't partake of it because, the availability is not there. Oh, but never mind, in time there will come the one who is available, who does love me, and I just have to believe in that fairy tale and be patient and not get sidetracked by liars, tricksters, false friends, false lovers, like, the little pop-ups that have happened randomly in the past that tricked me into thinking they were genuine. Oh, that's the worst kind of vermin there is. Those kinds. Evil they are. But anyway, Mama Two's over it now. And on we go with the reading of the Kybalion. The teachings are that the ethereal substance is a connecting link known as matter on the one hand and energy or force on the other, and also that it manifests a degree of vibration in rate and mode entirely its own. Scientists have offered the illustration of a rapidly moving wheel, top or cylinder, to show the effects of increasing rates of vibration. The illustration supposes a wheel, top or revolving cylinder running at a low rate of speed. We will call this revolving thing the object in following out the illustration. Let us suppose the object, I forgot the word is moving slowly. It may be seen readily, but no sound of its movement reaches the ear. The speed is gradually increased. In a few moments, its movement becomes so rapid, oh Charlie, that a deep growl or low note may be heard. Then, as the rate is increased, the note rises one in the musical scale. Then, the motion being still further increased, the next highest note is distinguished. Then, one after another, all the notes of the musical scale appear, rising higher and higher as the motion is increased. Finally, when the motions have reached a certain rate, the final note perceptible to human ears is reached, and the shrill piercing shriek dies away, and silence follows. No sound is heard from the revolving object, the rate of motion being so high that the human ear cannot register the vibrations. Then comes the perception of rising degrees of heat. Then, after quite a time, the eye catches a glimpse of the object becoming a dull, dark reddish colour. As the rate increases, the red becomes brighter. Then, as the speed is increased, the red melts into orange. Then the orange melts into a yellow. Then follow successively the shades of green, blue, indigo, and finally violet, as the rate of speed increases. Then the violet shades away, and all colour disappears, the human eye not being able to register them. But there are invisible rays emanating from the revolving object, the rays that are used in photographing and other subtle rays of light. Then begin to manifest the peculiar rays known as the X-rays, etc., as the constitution of the object changes. Electricity and magnetism are emitted when the appropriate rate of vibration is attained. When the object reaches a certain rate of vibration, its molecules disintegrate. Sorry, Charlie, just having cuddles down in my lap. And resolve themselves into the original elements or atoms. Then the atoms, following the principle of vibration, are separated into the countless corpuscles of which they are composed. And finally, even the corpuscles disappear and the object may be said to be composed of the ethereal substance. Science does not dare to follow the illustration further, but the Hermetists teach that if the vibrations be continually increased, the object would mount up the successive states of manifestation and would in turn manifest the various mental stages and then on spiritward until it would finally re-enter the all, which is absolute spirit. The object, however, would have ceased to be an object long before the stage of ethereal substance was reached, but otherwise the illustration is correct inasmuch as it shows the effect of constantly increased rates and modes of vibration. It must be remembered in the above illustration that at the stages at which the object throws off vibrations of light, heat, etc., it is not actually resolved into those forms of energy which are much higher in the scale, but simply that it reaches a degree of vibration in which those forms of energy are liberated in a degree from the confining influences of its molecules, atoms, and corpuscles, as the case may be. These forms of energy, although much higher in the scale than matter, are imprisoned. I knew you were going to do that, Charlie. And confined in the material combinations. By reason of the energies manifesting through and using material forms. My goodness, that was a lot for a little birdie. A lot, I tell you. A very great amount. I know. Do you feel better now? and thus becoming entangled and confined in their creations of material forms, which to an extent is true of all creations. Ouch. You keep biting, Mum, you have to go in your cage. The creating force becoming involved in its creation. But the Hermetic... What? Honestly. But the Hermetic teachings go much further than do those of modern science. All right, I hear you. You want my attention. I hear you. They teach that all manifestation of thought, emotion, reason, will or desire, or any mental state or condition, are accompanied by vibrations, a portion of which are thrown off and which tend to affect the minds of other persons by induction. This is the principle which produces the phenomena of telepathy, mental influence, and other forms of the action and power of mind over mind, with which the general public is rapidly becoming acquainted, owing to the wide dissemination of occult knowledge by the various schools, cults, and teachers along these lines at this time, this book having been copyrighted the second time in 1940. That knowledge has been disseminated for quite some time now. Every thought, emotion, or mental state has its corresponding rate and mode of vibration, and by an effort of the will of the person or of other persons, these mental states may be reproduced, such as a musical tone may be reproduced by causing an instrument to vibrate at a certain rate, just as colour may be reproduced in the same way. By a knowledge of the principle of vibration as applied to mental phenomena, one may polarize his mind at any degree he wishes, thus gaining a perfect control over his mental states, moods, etc. It's called meditation. In the same way, he may affect the minds of others, producing the desired mental states in them. In short, he may be able to produce on the mental plane that which science produces on the physical plane, namely, vibrations at will. This power, of course, may be acquired only by the proper instruction, exercises, practice, etc. The science being that of mental transmutation, one of the branches of the Hermetic art. A little reflection on what we have said will show the student that the principle of vibration underlies the wonderful phenomena of the power manifested by the masters and adepts, who are able to apparently set aside the laws of nature, but who in reality are simply using one law against another, one principle against others, and who accomplish their results by changing the vibrations of material objects or forms of energy, and thus perform what are commonly called miracles. As one of the old Hermetic writers has truly said, he who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the sceptre of power. And now we come to chapter 10. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. The great fourth Hermetic principle, ow! Little demon bird. The principle of polarity embodies the truth that all manifested things have two sides, two aspects, two poles, a pair of opposites, with manifold degrees between the two extremes. You're getting a little bit too tetchy, Charlie. Mama doesn't like that when you get too aggressive. You know that's not how we fly at sacred space. You have to live in harmony with the mama, or you have to go in your cage and stay alone for the rest of the day. It's your choice. You have free will, even for birdies. I'm watching you. I'm watching you. The old paradoxes which have ever perplexed the mind of men are explained by an understanding of this principle. She's taking too much interest in my lips. Sometimes she bites me on the lips. I have to watch that too. She can be a bit naughty. Man has... Yeah, that's it. You just sit over there and stay away from my face, baby girl. Man has always recognised something akin to this principle and has endeavoured to express it by such sayings, maxims, and aphorisms as the following. Everything is and isn't at the same time at your starting point, and you return from... Oh, sorry, you just skipped a page. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything. There is a reverse side to every shield, etc., etc. The Hermetic teachings are to the effect that the difference between things seemingly diametrically opposed to each other is merely a matter of degree. It teaches that the pairs of opposites may be reconciled, and that thesis and antithesis are identical in nature but different in degree, and that the universal reconciliation of opposites is effected by recognition of this principle of polarity. The teachers claim that illustration of this principle may be had on every hand and from an examination into the real nature of anything. They begin by showing that spirit and matter are but the two poles of the same thing, the intermediate planes being merely degrees of vibration. They show that the all and the many are the same, the difference being merely a matter of degree of mental manifestation. Thus, the law and laws are the two opposite poles of one thing. Likewise, principle and principles, infinite mind and finite minds. Then, passing on to the physical plane, they illustrate the principle by showing that heat and cold are identical in nature, the differences being merely a matter of degrees. The thermometer shows many degrees of temperature, the lowest pole being called cold and the highest heat. Between these two poles are many degrees of heat and or cold. Call them either and you are equally correct. The higher of 2 degrees is always warmer while the lower is always colder. There is no absolute standard, all is a matter of degree. There is no place on the thermometer where heat ceases and cold begins. It is all a matter of higher or lower vibrations. The very terms high and low, which we are compelled to use, are but poles of the same thing. The terms are relative. So with east and west, travel around the world in an eastward direction, and you reach a point which is called west at your starting point. And you return from that westward point. Travel far enough north, and you will find yourself travelling south, or vice versa. Light and darkness are poles of the same thing with many degrees between them. The musical scale is the same. Starting with C, you move upward until you reach another C, and so on. The differences between the two ends of the board being the same, with many degrees between the two extremes. The scale of colour is the same, higher and lower vibrations being the only difference between high violet and low red. Large and small are relative, so are noise and quiet. Hard and soft follow the rule, likewise sharp and dull. Positive and negative are two poles of the same thing with countless degrees between them. Good and bad are not absolute. We call one end of the scale good and the other bad, or one end good and the other evil, according to the use of the terms. A thing is less good than the thing higher in the scale, but that less good thing in turn is more good than the thing next below it, and so on, the more or less being regulated by the position on the scale. And so it is on the mental plane. Love and hate are generally regarded as being things diametrically opposed to each other, entirely different, unreconcilable. But we apply the principle of polarity. We find that there is no such thing as absolute love or absolute hate as distinguished from each other. The two are merely terms applied to the two poles of the same thing. Beginning at any point of the scale, we find more love or less hate as we ascend the scale, and more hate or less love as we descend. This being true no matter from what point, high or low, we may start. There are degrees of love and hate, and there is a middle point where like and dislike become so faint that it is difficult to distinguish between them. Courage and fear come under the same rule. The pairs of opposites exist everywhere. Where you find one thing, you find its opposite, the two poles. And it is this fact that enables the hermetist to transmute one mental state into another along the lines of polarization. Things belonging to different classes cannot be transmuted into each other, but things of the same class may be changed, that is, may have their polarity changed. Thus, love never becomes east or west, or red or violet, but it may and often does turn into hate, and likewise hate may be transformed into love by changing its polarity. Courage may be transmuted into fear, and the reverse. Hard things may be rendered soft, dull things become sharp, hot things become cold, and so on. The transmutation always being between things of the same kind of different degrees. Take the case of a fearful man. By raising his mental vibrations along the line of fear - courage, he can be filled with the highest degree of courage and fearlessness. And, likewise, the slothful man may change himself into an active, energetic individual simply by polarizing along the lines of the desired quality. The student who is familiar with the processes by which the various schools of mental science, etc., produce changes in the mental states of those following their teachings, may not readily understand the principle underlying many of these changes. When, however, the principle of polarity is once grasped, and it is seen that the mental changes are occasioned by a change of polarity, a sliding along the same scale, the matter is more readily understood. The change is not in the nature of a transmutation of one thing into another thing entirely different, but is merely a change of degree in the same things, a vastly important difference. For instance, borrowing an analogy from the physical plane, she treats my body as if I'm a tree climbing all over me. It's quite funny in a way. It is impossible to change heat into sharpness, loudness, highness, etc. But heat may readily be transmuted into cold simply by lowering the vibrations. I know why you're cranky today, Charlie. It's because you're quilling all around your head and neck, and it hurts when birds push out feathers and quill new feathers. Makes them very cranky and bad-tempered and irritable. Sort of like, well, I guess similar to when a woman's about to begin her period, but it's a different kind of shedding because they're not shedding, they're building new feathers. But by the goodness, does she get cranky? It's like birdie PMS. Birdie PMS! I know. You see, no matter what form we spirits take and what physical form, each form has its problems. You birdies with your quilling new feathers and your constant need to shit, and snakes with their need to shed their skin at least once a year. It's all very painful, this transmutation, isn't it? I know. You're a beautiful girl. The change is not in the nature of a transmutation of one thing into another thing entirely different, but is merely a change of degree in the same things, a vastly important difference. For instance, borrowing an analogy from the physical plane, it is impossible to change heat into sharpness, loudness, highness, etc. But heat may readily be transmuted into cold simply by lowering the vibration. Vibrations, plural, sorry. In the same way, hate and love are mutually transmutable, so are fear and courage. But fear cannot be transformed into love, nor can courage be transmuted into hate. The mental states belong to innumerable classes, each class of which has its opposite poles along which transmutation is possible. The student will readily recognise that in the mental states, as well as in the phenomena of the physical plane, the two poles may be classified as positive and negative respectively. Thus, love is positive to hate, courage to fear, activity to non-activity, etc., etc. And it will also be noticed that even to those unfamiliar with the principle of vibration, the positive pole seems to be of a higher degree than the negative, and readily dominates it. The tendency of nature is in the direction of the dominant activity of the positive pole. In addition to the changing of the poles of one's own mental states by the operation of the art of polarization, the phenomena of mental influence in its manifold phases shows us that the principle may be extended so as to embrace the phenomena of the influence of one mind over that of another, of which so much has been written and taught of late years. When it is understood that mental induction is possible, that is, that mental states may be produced by induction from others, then we can readily, sort of like a mass hypnosis or mass formation psychosis, to use modern day parlance. Thank you, Matthias Desmet. Then we can readily see how a certain rate of vibration or polarization of a certain mental state may be communicated to another person, and his polarity in that class of mental states thus changed. Hitler was actually seemed to have these powers or abilities to generate mass awe and devotion in the masses that would come to his rallies based on his absolute histrionic, almost hysterical orations. People would just be completely under his spell, as it were, hypnotised, willing to do anything for him. It's astonishing, the power of one man, measly little stunted runt of a litter, fucking dangerous little man, to hold such power over the asses and cause them to follow any of his ideologies that were actually anti-humanist and destructive and culminated in the Holocaust. I want you to remember that, the ability of a tyrant in our modern day, we've had one newly re-elected, to cause great chaos and tragedy in the hearts and minds of the asses who don't have the wherewithal to use critical thinking and think for themselves and the resources to survive it. I don't have the fucking resources to escape, trapped in my own personal hellscape, which I have to fight against daily because it's a mind virus that tells me that I'm trapped, that I'm not free, that I'm not safe. So I have to courageously every day fight against it by speaking out, showing up for my regular dance, even though that's getting more and more terrifying given the weirdos that follow me on and off buses or approach me in the actual club or wait for me outside the club. It's very, very fucking chilling and terrifying indeed. But I have to fight against the mind virus of predators and rapists and abusers by, no matter what, no matter who, continuing with my tribal moshing dance as an act of defiance, and also building my own charisma, my own courage, and my own power to survive on my own as I have done for 30 years. It'd be nice if I had a loving man by my side to support me, but as that hasn't manifested yet, And when have I ever had to rely on a man? It's not something I willingly choose to do because I don't like having my independence or my freedom or my ability to exist in my own body, mind and spirit safely taken away from me, because it was taken away from me in the past, almost causing my actual death on 3 separate occasions. So there is that. So yes, I have enormous trust issues and deep-seated fears that I have to, every time I go out with full makeup and a lovely corset or a lovely frock on, fight. That's me fighting against my own hard-won, gravel-rashed, preternatural fears. The greatest fear of all being that I will never be loved in a safe, nurturing, protective, kind, honouring way, and will only ever attract abusers. That's the hardest thing of all that I'm trying to kick down every day, because it doesn't have to be my reality. I'm a lovely woman. I'm perfectly worthy of a true and great, devoted, loyal, faithful, honouring love that endures for the rest of our lives together. Perfectly worthy as any other woman on this planet. But because of the cumulative damage that began even as early as 6 years old, it's something that I have been defiantly, rebelliously, courageously, audaciously at times, chutzpahdik that I am, fighting against it. So there are times when I fall into a dark space and think it's all hopeless and it's all lost and I'll never be happy and I'll never have love and I'll never be held in someone's strong, loving arms and be comforted and cherished and safe. And there's other times that I think, fuck it, do I want to be in a soul trap with another human ever again? So I kick against imaginary walls that don't need to be there and occasionally bite and fight, and it's ridiculous, but it's complex PTSD, and it is what it is, people of Earth. And a good, kind, noble, loving man will demonstrate to me that he always has my back, no matter what, no matter who, and will make me feel safe and calm and settled and peaceful, and we'll be able to build a life together, the right man at the right time, with powerful and loving intentions towards me, and we'll be surrounded by powerful, loving people who support our love too, instead of what I had with the courtmeister, having nothing but toxicity and destruction every single fucking day of that relationship, tearing at our what started out quite lovely in the beginning. So there you go. That's just an example. I mean, I don't have any feelings, positive or negative, towards that man anymore. It's 14 years ago and I'm over it. But I'm just saying it was nothing but a toxic wasteland. And so I don't want that for my future, to be in a relationship that is toxic or surrounded by toxic, evil, destructive people who are envious of our love. That's not a recipe for a healthy union of any kind, partnership, friendship, sexual, loving, life partnership. There's too much toxicity. It's doomed from the very beginning. So I'm just going to nip out because I'm curious and nosy, and I want to see what my letter in the letterbox is. I think it's one of my oils I bought. Oh, one at the door and one at the... Oh, they've been busy the place now. Just quickly open this. It'll be the flaxseed oil I've been waiting to arrive. No, it's the castor oil. That's good. It took ages to get here, so I'm glad that's here now. Nice. Happy about that. Oh, let's see something else in here. Right, good. Excellent. It's all happening, people of Earth, in a far out way. Petticoats, Charlie. Why the goddess? It's too much. Right. What's this? I've been busily buying stuff. Alright, screen protectors for my phone. Excellent. Been waiting for that for a while too. This is some, don't know what this is. Judging that it's come from Caulfield, or there's something from the Jews asking for money. Yes, Magen David Adom. Right. So we've got a lot of stuff they've sent this year. A big newsletter. Right, let us carry on. Let us carry on, people of Earth. Can't remember where we were. Told you I get bored. If I get bored, I just wander off into a whole other direction. But anyway, I'm not bored. I'm not bored. I'm just, what's the word? Distractible. Yes, because I segued talking about how Hitler was able to do the mass formation, mass crowds at his rallies, which was, if you ever see old videos, old films of it, it's actually quite frightening to watch. Very fucking chilling to watch. It is along this principle that the results of many of the mental treatments are obtained. For instance, a person is blue, melancholy, and full of fear. A mental scientist bringing his own mind up to the desired vibration by his trained will, and thus obtaining the desired polarization in his own case, then produces a similar mental state in the other by induction, the result being that the vibrations are raised and the person polarizes toward the positive end of the scale instead of toward the negative, and his fear and other negative emotions are transmuted to courage, something greatly lacking in our world, and similar positive mental states. The little study will show you that these mental changes are nearly all along the line of polarization, the change being one of degree rather than of kind. A knowledge of the existence of this great hermetic principle will enable the student to better understand his own mental states and those of other people. He will see that these states are all matters of degree, and seeing thus, he will be able to raise or lower the vibration at will, to change his mental poles, and thus be master of his mental states, instead of being their servant and slave. So when some idiot's offering you donuts and football tickets to inject yourself with an unknown substance, you had a choice to not be a mental slave and say, how is this good for me and what is the agenda behind this? Invading your body autonomy for a donut. And I'm fully aware that I make a lot of enemies every time I bring this up. But there were those of you that were really that brainwashed and now you're angry. And who are you angry at? You should really only ever be angry at yourself for your own folly, for listening to a television program and a politician that knows no more what is good for you than the next person, by the way, but they were paid. Joe Kelly told me I made a lot of money out of that. To my face. They were paid. Remember that. You were merely a byproduct of their greed and corruption. So, many of you had to do it to keep a job and a roof over your head and provide for your children, and I completely empathise and grieve alongside of you that was awful, that your choice was taken away from you, your free will choice, and that you were coerced under the guise of survival to take in that substance. But I'm not talking about those of you who had to feed their family. I'm talking about those of you who were so greedy and corrupt that you endorsed it and foisted it upon the population so you could make more money and aggrandise your own selfish selves at the risk of your own progeny, by the way. Your own progeny. Traces of DNA are in that substance. DNA altering traces that once altered cannot be changed back, no matter how many Kybalion books or how much mental training you have. It's frightening and chilling what has been done to the human species. And by his knowledge, he will be able to aid his fellows intelligently. Now bear in mind, I read this book as a teenager, 19, 20. So I'm glad that some of it soaked into my psyche enough that I was able to use discernment. That's not to say that I use discernment correctly on every issue, and I've been played for a fool too many times, especially in my love life, by the gods. But again, it's about subsuming the fear of not ever having against overcoming, raising your vibration to thinking maybe just this time, just this one time, maybe the last time I have a real love in my life. And it's hard to know for certain, especially when there's no real communication and little games have already started to be played. And that's just in the context of a platonic friendship. So Mama T is very well aware. She's been through that before too many times. Very well aware of how that can go. Very, very ugly, very, very quickly. I'll just repeat that sentence. And by his knowledge he will be able to aid his fellows intelligently, and by the appropriate methods change the polarity when the same is desirable. We advise all students to familiarise themselves with this principle of polarity, for a correct understanding of the same will throw light on many difficult subjects. Now this morning I woke up, I do trance drummings for my own personal interest, and a lot of it's just my subconscious talking to me and wishing and fairy stories and Pollyanna bullshit, But it's astonishing how many things are accurate and do actually come true. Little things, like nothing world-changing or, you know, nothing that alters my reality terribly much, but just little kind of signposts along the way. So in recent weeks, I've had a spirit or an entity or various spirits come through and say the word Kybalion to me. And the first time it happened, I laughed. I said, that's the Godfather from the movie The Godfather, the Kybalion family. I think they were fictitious. I don't think they were based on a real family, but could be wrong there. But anyway, the head of the fucking mob, the Corleones. So I got a bit freaked out because I thought, I'm not involved with anyone in the mob. I no longer have any connections to, you know, the underbelly in the sense of loosely being affiliated with a bikie clubhouse that I walked in off the street and invited myself to, by the way. That was a spirit mission demanded by my angel. It's got me killed in a way too, but not really, just a vague threat. But anyway, having said that, I don't have any affiliations with anyone that I should be ashamed to associate with. Don't have any heroin addicts that I'm constantly trying to keep alive by rescuing them from their dud boyfriends or their drug deals gone bad. I cut ties to all those affiliations of people who were toxic, by and large, fucking evil, not the heroin addicted woman, but her mother especially. Rancid it turned, very rancid. I don't have any affiliations to anyone that will drag me down into some kind of ugly, life-threatening, destructive, putrescent hell loop. I got clean and clear of all of that back in 2015, right? 9 years. Clean and clear. By clean and clear, I don't do drugs, but I mean, I went off all my psych meds in 2016, however. So I got clean and clear of everything. Kept my mind clear and pristine and aware because I knew I would need it in the coming years. I already had an intuition before 2020 that the world was going to be irrevocably altered and turned to shit and be a fucking nightmare that I would have to somehow navigate through. And boy, was I correct. So anyway, so all my close friends that remain in my life is two, Jared and Lynn, are all very respectable, hardworking, decent people who don't dabble in anything negative like drugs or criminal activity or anything sordid or anti-humanistic or, you know, negative. And I'm quite proud of that. I had to fine-tune my life right down. So I sit up and take notice when the spirits are telling me Kybalion. So I don't have any connections to the mob or bikies or criminal activity or anyone that could be deemed to be less than respectable, although respectable too is a vibration that can be a bit flubbery and up and down according to the circumstances. So anyway, I asked the spirit, what do you mean by Kybalion? That's the Godfather. They laughed. And they said, Google it, Tanya. So I Googled it. Kybalion is a small town outside of Palermo, Sicily. An actual town. Kybalion. Who would have known, huh? You wouldn't know that unless some entity told you that. So I said, well, that's interesting, but I'll probably never go to Sicily, even though it's one of the places that would be interesting to see with all the sacred sites. Sardinia, is it? Sardinia, that has the something to do with giants. And anyway, I think my psych is planning to journey there at some stage, but I don't think that's in Sicily. I'm not sure. Could be. I'll have to Google it later. But anyway, so the spirits mentioned this little town outside of Palermo, Sicily. What does it mean? I thought. So I dug a bit further. What does Kybalion actually mean? Do you know what it actually means, people of Earth? The name Kybalion? This will blow your head back. It means powerful and influential, which is perfect description for the family Corleone and the Godfather, the mob Godfather being powerful and influential. So every now and then they flick up this word Corleone, this name Corleone, to me, to remind me of being surrounded by people who are all my own self and my own power and field of influence, being powerful and influential. So I woke up this morning, Corleone, they said. I said, powerful and influential. They said, you, Tanya. Me? I said, I have no power, sitting in Housing Commission on a disability pension, struggling every day as I do. You, Tanya, they said, never forget who you are, how you have been powerful and influential in many people's lives, even without completely being cognizant of it, just by your sheer little stubborn little Tanya tantrum throwing defiance alone. And I laughed. I had a good old chuckle over that. The spirit's waking me up in the morning. I was woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be told that, by the way. It was a bit astonishing. So anyway, powerful and influential. That is the constant message being driven home to me. And the people that surround me in the club, especially the men in the bands, I call them the kings of the Brisbane music scene. Tonight it will be the return of one of our kings, Juddy Jeffs, who I adore. He's a very wonderful, kind man to me. And we'll be resuming his unassuming power and influence by playing his music again. And I'll be assuming my power and influence by dancing wildly to it. And on it goes and on it goes, people of Earth. It's a feedback loop. Who knows who might be inspired by our courage to survive our own health issues and to play our music and to dance in the face of everything. We face everything and rise. And we share the love, the platonic agape love that we all share amongst ourselves and our little group, I guess. And we influence each other too, to hold each other's heads up above the quagmire when we go down, struggle. It is powerful and beautiful and blessed. So to all my musician friends and friends in the club in the Brooklyn Standard who have been so kind and soul nourishing towards me. So anyway, we're up to chapter 11. Rhythm. And the rhythm of night is a powerful thing. Da 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 da. I can't even think of the words. But anyway, that's a song that popped into my head. Mama T. It's like I'm handicapped. It's like I've got blocks in my brain that just switch things on and off. Well, I have to exist in this brain, and this is the way it is. And yes, it is comical at times, but I can't remember things. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm, compensates, the Kybalion. The great fifth hermetic principle. Did I say chapter 10? It's actually chapter 11. Dear Goddess. Yes, I know, you silly mother. The great... I did read that. The great fifth hermetic... See, I'm wavering. Do you know why I'm wavering? Because I'm tired. I'm starting to kind of leave my body. But I was fine when I began this reading, and we're only 1 hour and 26 minutes in. So I can do this, people of Earth. It's bloody raining again. I've got all my washing on the line. It's been out here for 2 days. Dear Goddess. It's never going to get dry. I had hoped that the sun might come out the Savo, but, well, it might still. I can see the light behind the clouds, but anyway, on we go. Sorry about that interruption. The great fifth hermetic principle, the principle of rhythm, embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion, a to and from movement, a flow and inflow, a swing forward and backward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow, a high tide and a low tide between the two poles manifest on the physical, mental or spiritual planes. The principle of rhythm is closely connected with the principle of polarity described in the preceding chapter. Rhythm manifests between the two poles established by the principle of polarity. This does not mean, however, that the pendulum of rhythm swings to the extreme poles, for this rarely happens. In fact, it is difficult to establish the extreme polar opposites in the majority of cases. Now I've got a fucking craving for chocolate, would you believe it? But the swing is ever toward first one pole and then the other. There is always an action and reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking, manifesting in all of the airs and phenomena of the universe. Suns, worlds, men, animals, plants, minerals, forces, energy, mind and matter, yes, even spirit manifests this principle. The principle manifests in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life history of all things, and finally, in the mental states of man. Beginning with the manifestations of spirit of the all, it will be noticed that there is ever the outpouring and the indrawing, the outbreathing and inbreathing of Brahm, as the Brahmins word it, or the Tsum in Kabbalah. Universes are created, reach their extreme low point of materiality, and then begin their upward swing. Suns spring into being, and then their height of power being reached, the process of retrogression begins, and after eons they become dead masses of matter, awaiting another impulse, which starts again their inner energies into activity, and a new solar life cycle is begun. And thus it is with all the worlds. They are born, grow, and die, only to be reborn. And thus it is with all the things of shape and form. They swing from action to reaction, from birth to death, from activity to inactivity, and then back again. Thus it is with all living things. They are born, grow, and die, and then are reborn. So it is with all great movements, philosophies, creeds, fashions, governments, nations, and all else. Birth, growth, maturity, decadence, death, and then new birth. The swing of the pendulum is ever in evidence. We're looking at the decadence and the death now, are we not? The end of the Kali Yuga cycle. Night follows day, and day, night. The pendulum swings from summer to winter and then back again. The corpuscles, atoms, molecules, and all masses of matter swing around the circle of their nature. And even though we're at the end of a cycle and everything is in complete inversion of reality and complete disarray, there will be a rebirth and a regeneration and a new beginning. That is the nature of the universe and of all things, including civilizations, societies, cults, creeds, politics. There is no such thing as absolute rest or cessation from movement, and all movement partakes of rhythm. The principle is of universal application, may be applied to any question or phenomena of any of the many planes of life. It may be applied to all phases of human activity. There is always the rhythmic swing from one pole to the other. The universal pendulum is ever in motion. The tides of life flow in and out according to law. The principle of rhythm is well understood by modern science and is considered a universal law as applied to material things. But the Hermetists carry the principle much further and know that its manifestations and influence extend to the mental activities of man, and and that it accounts for the bewildering succession of moods, feelings, and other annoying and perplexing changes that we notice in ourselves. But the Hermetists, by studying the operations of this principle, have learned to escape some of its activities by transmutation. The Hermetic masters long since discovered that while the principle of rhythm was invariable and ever in evidence in mental phenomena, still there were two planes of its manifestation so far as mental phenomena are concerned. They discovered that there were two general planes of consciousness, the lower and the higher, the understanding of which fact enabled them to rise to the higher plane and thus escape the swing of the rhythmic pendulum which manifested on the lower plane. In other words, the swing of the pendulum occurred on the unconscious plane and the consciousness was not affected. This they call the law of neutralization. Its operations consist in the raising of the ego above the vibrations of the unconscious plane of mental activity, so that the negative swing of the pendulum is not manifested in consciousness, and therefore they are not affected. It is akin to rising above a thing and letting it pass beneath you. I've been doing a lot of rising above lately. I've been quite conscious of it too, rising above the errant bullshit of the little trickster games that people think they're going to play with me. But remember, always and forever, people of Earth, even though I love you deeply and hold you in high regard, believe it or not, the only way to win a game is not to play. The Hermetic master or advanced student polarizes himself at the desired pole, and by a process akin to refusing to participate in the backward swing, or if you prefer, a denial of its influence over him, he stands firm in his polarized question and allows the mental pendulum to swing back along the unconscious plane. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery accomplish this more or less unknowingly, and by refusing to allow their moods and negative mental states to affect them, they apply the law of neutralization. The master, however, carries this to a much higher degree of proficiency, and by the use of his will, he attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of those who allow themselves to be swung backward and forward by the mental pendulum of moods and feelings. The importance of this will be appreciated by any thinking person who realizes what creatures of moods, feelings and emotion the majority of people are, and how little mastery of themselves they manifest. If you will stop and consider a moment, you will realize how much these swings of rhythm have affected you in your life, how a period of enthusiasm has been invariably followed by an opposite feeling and mood of depression. Likewise, your moods and periods of courage have been succeeded by equal moods of fear. And so it has ever been with the majority of persons. Tides of feeling have ever risen and fallen with them, but they have never suspected the cause or reason of the mental phenomena. Often other people's fucking manipulations, which is why I get hellishly angry when I witness that. Don't do that. It's psychopathic. Let people live according to their own mental states and their own choices and free will and their own heart and mind and their own love, and harm ye none, do what thou willest. An understanding of the workings of this principle will give one the key to the mastery of these rhythmic swings of feeling, and will enable him to know himself better and to avoid being carried away by these inflows and outflows. The will is superior to the conscious manifestation of this principle, although the principle itself can never be destroyed. We may escape its effects, but the principle operates nevertheless. The pendulum ever swings, although we may escape being carried along with it. See also the COVID epoch and the mass formation psychosis, and how everyone bent to the will of some unseen, unknowable creature that the politicians in global lockstep willingly were in service to. It's astonishing when you think about it. Completely astonishing, and how easy it was for them to achieve their aims. Like a hot knife through butter. Fucking blows my mind to this day. There are other features of the operation of this principle of rhythm of which we wish to speak at this point. We were conditioned to be cowards. We were programmed by our own TVs for decades, long before we were programmed. We were dumbed down and dulled down by DDT and Agent Orange and fluoride in our water. We were fed predictive programming in movies and TV shows. We had our agency chipped away at and chipped away at and chipped away at in our education systems. We were denied our own minds and our own psychism and our own powers. Reclaim it, people of Earth. It's not too late to reclaim you, your own soul. It's been tampered with, dramatically tampered with, but every day in every way, fight for your own soul and your own body autonomy, your own heart and your own mind. Charlie says so, don't you, Charlie? She says, yes, Mum. The humans did very silly things. I know they did. Very silly, very naughty things. They should listen to the birdies more. If they listened to the birdies and the snakes and Mother Earth, they wouldn't get into this mess, would they? Just saying. There are the features of the operation of this principle of rhythm, of which now you see why I am, in effect, a true shaman. One of the ancient ones in our Mother Earth. I loved Judaism. I loved being a Jew for 30 years. I was a practicing Jew, more or less. But now I am a daughter of the gods and of our earth, the only home we as living mortal beings will ever have, our planet Earth. So your fealty and your loyalty is to preserving our earth and our pristine innate bodies. By the gods, Mamati has spoken. There are features of the operation of this principle of rhythm of which we wish to speak at this point. There comes into its operations that which is known as the law of compensation. One of the definitions or meanings of the word compensate is to counterbalance, which is the sense, in which the Hermetists use the term. It is this law of compensation to which the Kybalion refers when it says, the measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. You see that with those swinging metal balls. What are they called? Newton's balls or whatever. You set one off in trajectory and it hits the next ball, and so on down the line, and then it swings back, and it swings backward and forward until the force or the energy eventually dissipates and it returns to stillness again. I feel like I had a lovely shower before I began this reading, but I feel like she's picking on one of my spits. But I didn't, did I? No, I'm just worried about nothing. Sometimes I have to be conscious that I also worry about nothing at times. I have to calm my farm. Calm your farm, Tanya Aarons. But the reality is she will keep pooping. I will have to keep worrying about being pooped on. Little Miss Madam Charlie. Yes, living your best life with your little orange beak and your blue head and your green head and your spinny eyes. She's happy today. She really is quite happy today. Haven't spent much time with her in recent days with the rain and everything. Oh, so she's happy. She's got Mamati time all to herself. She has no conscience that she's sharing it with YouTube. The law of compensation is that the swing in one direction determines the swing in the opposite direction, or to the opposite pole, the one balances or counterbalances the other. On the physical plane, we see many examples of this law. The pendulum of the clock swings a certain distance to the right and then an equal distance to the left. The seasons balance each other in the same way. The tides follow the same law. And the same law is manifested in all the phenomena of rhythm. The pendulum, with a short swing in one direction, has but a short swing in the other, while the long swing to the right invariably means the long swing to the left. An object hurled upward to a certain height has an equal distance to traverse on its return. The force with which a projectile is sent upward a mile is reproduced when the projectile returns to the earth on its return journey. This law is constant on the physical plane, as reference to the standard authorities will show you. But the Hermetists carry it still further. They teach that a man's mental states are subject to the same law. The man who enjoys keenly is subject to keen suffering, while he who feels but little pain is capable of feeling but little joy, which I found that out 15 years on heavy psych meds. Numbed out of my skull. There was not as much pain, but there was also very little fucking joy, also surrounded by toxic, evil, destructive, spiteful, envious, greedy, corrupt, selfish people. I really lived in a hell, a terrible, terrible hell, and it took a lot. It took my suicide attempt to finally escape it all, because the gods vomited me back to earth for my beautiful life to unfold at long last. Here we are, 9 years later. I'm watching it unfolding. It's astonishing and miraculous, and I can hardly believe my own eyes, and I still have the old fears of when does the shoe fall, when does it turn ugly, and that is a fear I have to overcome and carefully calibrate so that it doesn't turn ugly, even though historically that was my experience in the past. That was then, this is now, and on we go and on we go, ever spiralling upward and forwards with great confidence and courage, corazon, faith in my future of at long last having a wonderful life with a man who adores me, whoever that person manifests to be. The pig suffers but little mentally and enjoys but little. He is compensated. Oh, how do you know that a pig doesn't suffer mentally? No, I don't agree with that. Animals have their own sufferings. Trust me on that one. But anyway, they're using that as an example. And on the other hand, there are other animals who enjoy keenly, but whose nervous organism and temperament cause them to suffer exquisite degrees of pain. And so it is with man. There are temperaments which permit of but low degrees of enjoyment and equally low degrees of suffering, while there are others which permit the most intense enjoyment but also the most intense suffering. I think it's got a lot to do with, high intelligence too. The more intelligent you are, the more you can see the vicissitudes of fate, especially if you have cumulative trauma like I've had. So you can see the patterns arising, and so then the anxiety and the fear kicks in. As I said, it's a constant process of swinging on that pendulum of trying to get to that middle point zen zone of no one fucks with the Tanya, and I'm not going to buy into anyone else's bullshit, nor will I buy into my own bullshit, my own fears and anxieties. Some days I win, some days I lose, but it's a constant process of trying to reach some kind of equanimity and calibration. Some of you have seen me do it in my dance, and it's been astonishing at times. Some of you have seen me completely leave my body and zone out in my disassociative states, which is also a form of calibrating. And anyway, we're all on this journey of life together is what I'm saying, and we're all in a constant state of managing our emotions and our traumas and our joys and our great loves, and experiencing life one day at a time. The rule is that the capacity for pain and pleasure in each individual are balanced. The law of compensation is in full operation here. But the Hermetists go still further in this matter. They teach that before one is able to enjoy a certain degree of pleasure, he must have swung as far proportionately toward the other pole of feeling. They hold, however, that the negative is precedent to the positive in this matter. That is to say that in experiencing a certain degree of pleasure, it does not follow that he will have to pay up for it with a corresponding degree of pain. On the contrary, the pleasure is the rhythmic swing according to the law of compensation for a degree of pain previously experienced either in the present life or in a previous incarnation. This throws a new light on the problem of pain. The Hermetists regard the chain of lives as continuous and as forming a part of one life of the individual, so that in consequence the rhythmic swing is understood in this way, while it would be without meaning unless the truth of reincarnation is admitted. But the Hermetists claim that the master or advanced student is able, to a great degree, to escape the swing toward pain by the process of neutralization before mentioned. By rising on to the higher plane of the ego, much of the experience that comes to those dwelling on the lower plane is avoided and escaped. The law of compensation plays an important part in the lives of men and women. It will be noticed that one generally pays the price of anything he possesses or lacks. He has one thing, if he lacks another. Let me read that again. If he has one thing, he lacks another. The balance is struck. No one can keep his penny and have the bit of cake at the same time. Everything has its pleasant and unpleasant sides. The things that one gains are always paid for by the things that one loses. The rich possess much that the poor lack, while the poor often possess things that are beyond the reach of the rich. The millionaire may have the inclination toward feasting and the wealth wherewith to secure all the dainties and luxuries of the table, while he lacks the appetite to enjoy the same. He envies the appetite and digestion of the labourer who lacks the wealth and inclinations of the millionaire, and who gets more pleasure from his plain food than the millionaire could obtain, even if his appetite were not jaded, nor his digestion ruined, for the wants, habits, and inclinations differ. And so it is through life. The law of compensation is ever in operation, striving to balance and counterbalance, and always succeeding in time, even though several lives may be required for the return swing of the pendulum of rhythm. And I have seen that in my own life, surviving multiple near-death experiences and going from being relatively wealthy as a young woman by inheritance to being 30 years now, almost 30 years, poor, and yet in many ways I'm richer now than I ever was when I had a freehold house and a husband, because I have freedom, self-determination, my own will to thrive, my own dreams and aspirations I chip away at slowly day by day, and my immense ability to love even in the face of all reason other people that was almost destroyed and almost culminated in my own death in 2015, but I was literally vomited back by the gods and cast back for another try and another try and another try. And the person who truly loves me, although unavailable, has seen that reclamation of my spirit. So if that person watches my videos, he understands exactly what it is I'm putting down here, that I've come back to life and blown life back into myself, but also being loved in such sweet and noble and generous and kind ways that life was indeed blown back into me in more darker, terrifying times than the last 4 years we've just survived. Barely. Now, three or four more chapters to go, but we're 2 hours in. Yes, I think I'll break it into another video because I'm getting tired and dizzy and weak, and I want to dance tonight, so I don't want to be overly tired. But however, they're not all that long chapters. Maybe I could forge ahead. Maybe it's only a 3-hour video. Some weird, I don't know what that noise is, rapping or auction or races. It's quite astonishing. I'm just trying to work out, we started at chapter 9. Oh, it's some teenage boy listening to music that he's allowed. We started at chapter 9. You can tell I'm tired, I'm fading out, man. I'm fading. This is the thing. Mama T doesn't have very good energy reserves. It comes and goes like the tides. It was even predicted in my horoscope that was done for me when I was a child that I would have this problem. Well, it was 2 hours to read that much, that many pages. So technically, this is just over 2 hours worth again. So yes, another video tomorrow. Tomorrow we will continue. I'm lost in space. Somebody whistle me home. Come home, Tanya Aarons. Come home to your body, mind and spirit. This is how I get people. Causation. Right. I'll put that little thing that's a bit of a trigger because it's from my mother back in this. We're up to chapter 12. So when I come back tomorrow to read to you, it will be chapter 12 to chapter 15. And then we will have reached completion. I'm a bit disappointed because part of me wants to soldier ahead and just finish it today, but it would make this a 4-hour video. It's just too much for your nervous system and my nervous system. So there is that. We must protect our energy and our minds, people of Earth. Oh, sweet. How I worry about you as well as me. Well, crisscross. We're on this journey together, my beloved ones. Have a beautiful day, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are in the space-time continuum. If you stuck with me this long to watch me completely flubberise at the end, you must find what I have to offer of interest, and I express gratitude for that. Bye for now. Take good care.